My chat members, how are you doing? Did you just get all of that? Thank you, Linda. Okay, so Kathleen, you still with us? I'm about to answer the questions that you sent me for the rest of the group. Hopefully they can find that also beneficial. Okay, so the first question from Kathleen says, do you suggest using a metronome during scale practice? Absolutely. One of the things that I find a little bit more fun for my scales is if I get a beat going and practice my scales to that. Or or anything like that. Because what the scale does, it helps you to monitor your speed. Because when you're playing, you'll be playing to a click, to a metronome, to a tempo, to some form of time. So it logically would make sense to practice your metronome, your scales with the metronome. If you want to use the good old metronome, you could do that. I also always recommend practicing your your scales slowly. Because in practicing your scale slowly, you develop accuracy and the ability to eventually go faster, easier. If you try to play fast all the time and you start to fumble, that's a bad sign, because if you continue to do that, then you're practicing mistakes and reaffirming mistakes. So that's one you should always practice with a metronome. I would also add that you don't want to spend your entire day just practicing scales. Think of scale as like a morning exercise or a morning stretch. You know, when you sit down to practice, you can dedicate the first, say, 10 minutes to scales. I tend to break up my scales in groups. So for example, if I'm practicing major scales, when I was learning my major scales, I would do like 4 major scales a day. So for example, I say C, C sharp, D, and E flat, just those 4 major scales. And I'll just spend 10 minutes on them, that's it. The next day, I choose another 4, and so on. Linda has a question. It would be helpful for me to have the basic chords as a template to expound on. That's very true. I was just reading from a hymnal, so unfortunately I don't have the basic chord template, but that's true. Before you can begin to reharmonize any song, you need to have the basic template with you so you can expound on that. So one thing you can do, if you can read music from a hymnal, you can write out the chords, the basic chords, and then you'll have that to expound on. I guess I'll have to do a tutorial on that. This is my hymnal. I was just playing this hymn for you. And yeah, I'll have to, for those who don't read music, we'd have to get the chord chart, or if you can do a quick transcription by ear, listening, and figure out just the basic chords, and then expound on that. Oh, you want to take a picture of it? Sure. Linda wants to take a picture, a screenshot of the hymn. There you go. Let me know when you got it. Got the screenshot now? Great. So Kathleen, I guess she left the chat. However, I'm going to still go through her questions because this video is going to be available on your YouTube channel anyway, so she can catch up on it there. The next question that Kathleen asked is, during one practice session, is it a good idea to work on multiple pieces of music, perhaps 3 or 4, including scales? How would you carve up 1 hour practice session? First thing I would say is you can practice multiple music. It just depends on how much time you assert to them. Scale practicing should be like a daily routine, or not even necessarily daily, but it should be something that you always do, as long as you're a pianist. Because it keeps your fingers in check, it keeps your technique sharp. So I also like to dedicate the least amount of time to technique building stuff, because it's something that you will continually to build on and improve. So it doesn't make sense trying to put humongous amount of practice time in one sitting on them. So I would say if you have an hour to practice, you can spend 15 minutes on technique building, scales, arpeggios. 15 minutes, so then that leaves with 45 minutes. If you have 3 pieces, you can split up that 45 minutes equally. And that gives you 15 minutes with each piece. When you're practicing each piece now, you should have specific things that you want to accomplish about that piece. So when you sit down, have a goal in mind. If it's just to be able to memorize the chords, work on memorization. And the different ways you can memorize chords is kinesthetic, so what it feels like under your fingers. Also visual, so what it looks like under your fingers. And then obviously orally by the sound of the chord. So those are the 3 different ways. Always do those things slowly and do them in small bits. So in other words, don't play from the beginning of the song to the end of the song, then back to the beginning to the end. Pick, like, say, just 1 verse and just work that verse for that practice session. Then you jump to the next song, you pick a specific problem. If it's probably, say, a scalic passage, I don't know, something crazy that you want to be able to do accurately each time, then you just pick that part of the piece and you work on it, and you work on it slowly. And so on. You go to the next piece, you pick a specific problem, and you work on that. And that's how you practice. The next day, you devise a plan of the things you want to get accomplished, and you do that. So that's my advice on practicing scales, or practicing in general. I'll continue answering Kathleen's question that she emailed me, which is another things you can do if you guys aren't able to make the live chat, live webinar. You can email questions. The question is, when learning a new piece of music, how far into the piece should I play before repeating for practice? Measures, a quarter, a half the piece? Well, there's no blanket answer to that question. When you're learning a new piece, you pick the hardest part first. And during one playthrough, you're going to be able to pick up right then and there where the tough parts are. You physically use a pencil if you're reading a chart and mark them, put an asterisk at the spots that you know definitely going to use some work. And then you isolate that part. So it could be in the middle of a piece, it could be the 3rd bar, it could be towards the end. You know, you don't have to always start from the beginning. If you have no problem playing the first few lines of the piece, then that's not the part that needs the work. Find the sections that need the work. A good thing to also do is to practice transitions. Going from the verse to a chorus, from the chorus to a verse, or in a more written piece from one line to another line. Practice just that transition till you get it. If it's a piece you're playing, that the hands is moving, you know, you can practice that spot that requires the hands to leap. You know, you practice that part, do it slowly, and that's the part that you would loop. So that's how you'd approach a piece that has issues in it. Next question from Kathleen says, while learning new scales, how many continuous octaves should you practice? My wrist gets tight. Any tricks for keeping it fluid and loose? On descending scales, sometime after I play a black note, my fingers migrate too far into the white key, etc. If you're practicing a new scale, you should keep it to 1 octave. For example, if I'm practicing, that was the old tone scale I just played. If you're practicing a new scale, say the whole tone scale, you want to keep it to 1 octave. When you're able to play 1 octave comfortably, try 2. If you're able to play 2, then most likely you're going to be able to play 3. And so on. But you don't want to be practicing all those octaves in one sitting. So today you work on 1 octave. Tomorrow you work on 1 octave. The third day you work on 1 octave. Then the fourth day you can say, okay, now I'm going to try 2 octaves. All the while maintaining a consistent pace. Next question, again from Kathleen. Can you suggest any good website for purchasing solo piano sheet music? I always go to sheetmusicplus.com. They have a wealth of sheet music there from different style and composers, a lot of stuff. Or sometimes you can just do a regular Google search of the piece that you're looking for. And some site comes up. The Alfred's sites also, it's a good source for getting music. So those are the 2 places I would look. Even Amazon. Amazon, as we all know, has everything. They sell everything. So you can also check Amazon. And the final question from Kathleen. After you complete the lesson, it would be so helpful when you suggest how to practice what you have been taught. Good question. So, seeing that the nature of today's webinar was passing chords and how to reharmonize a hymn based on Kathleen's request and Linda's suggestion, you definitely need to have the music already at hand, whether it's just the chords or it's just a sheet music. But having something already there where you can play the songs as written. And then once you have that, you can start to experiment. Now, how does one know where to begin? Well, the first thing you should know is that the melody takes precedent. The melody is the most important thing in the piece. That you don't want to mess with. You want to be able to know the melody very comfortably. And then, based on your scale or your key, I'm playing in the key of G, so I know that I only have one black key. You also want to know what your basic chords are in the key that you're playing with, because it's that knowledge you're going to then build on to understand where you're going to interject passing chords and so on. Just another reminder, I did a full 17-minute video on Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee. That's a very popular hymn, very popular tune composed by Beethoven. And that's a video. It's just going for $3, so you can snag that on your way out. Over, back to what I was saying. Once you get an understanding of the melody, now you can choose chords based on what the melody is doing. And again, for example, I know I could put the E minor in there because it has the same, it has a B in the chord, has the melody, so it's a chord that I could use. So in that respect, that also means I could have used the D minor because it has a B. So let's try that. Doesn't really have the same pull. The E minor sounds better. And when I am going through the process of reharmonization, that's how I do it. I choose chords based on the melody and then see if it sounds good. If it doesn't sound good, I scrap it, try another one. So far, the E minor works. I chose the A even though initially the B is not a part of the A chord, but here it nicely resolves. Then we go back to our original D. Let me do that again. And the next part of the song. Because the melody is moving somewhat quick there, I didn't see the need to add any additional substitution there. What you could have done, however, so what I did was turn the G into a 7th. And do it again. Now the original goes but then when I hear the hymn, I hear that because, again, my ears is a little advanced and I've done a lot of listening, so I could hear that there are some chords that could fit there. And I know right away I could do the, then I do the B minor 7th, E with the suspension, then the A, then what they call a turnaround. That's also known as the cycle of fourth. E, going up a fourth, going up a fourth, going up a fourth, going up a fourth. That movement's all fourth, and it leads me back to the one. This is getting into a lot of a complex topic, because now we got cycles of fourths. And then as you can see, I turned some of the chords major, like for example, I can do. Now you see me using G sharp, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought we were in the key of G with just one sharp. Why are you using all those black keys? It's because I'm turning some of that my minor chords into major. E is supposed to be minor, but I turn it major. I mean B, turn it major. E is supposed to be minor, I turn it major. And that's what they call using secondary dominance, which is another topic I'll have to cover. We're definitely not going to be able to cover everything in this time frame. We only have 4 minutes left. So I'm going to play through the hymn again from beginning to end, so you see and hear what I'm doing. I'm going to go through it slowly. So sorry.